Welcome to the ABCs of the infant brain development. If we have not had the opportunity to meet, my name is Jocelyn Williams. I'm a neuroeducator and neurodevelopmental movement consultant. In other words, I educate about movement that develops your baby's neurology. I'm also the founder and director of Neurally Solutions. Here's a couple of fun facts about me. I have 5 kids and we love apple pie and ice cream. I would love to learn a little bit more about you. Feel free to contact me at neurally.com. Let's begin with the story. Baby girl. Baby girl had been in the NICU since birth. It was said that she would never be able to eat, drink, or eliminate independently. She was placed in foster care, and a few months later, I had the opportunity to work with her and her foster care mother. During our time together, I shared about the ABCs of infant brain development and provided support, training, and simple protocols that helped to develop baby girl's neurology. The change was astonishing. Here's what baby girl's foster care mom stated. At 7 months old, she began the ABCs of infant brain development. We gave her the opportunity to naturally go through the developmental sequence. And even though she had surgery on her tummy, when her wounds were healed, we began with tummy time, then tummy crawling, and lots of hands and knees creeping. We worked closely with Jocelyn, who would complete educational assessments to ensure that baby girl was ready for the next stage. What began to unfold was truly amazing. Baby girl is one example of the variety of infants and children that we work with on a daily basis. We work with typically developing infants and children, as well as infants and children with developmental, emotional, intellectual, or global delays. The process we use begins at the same place for everyone. We begin by looking at brain development. Why? Because while the brain is very flexible, it's a complex organ that is the control center of all of our human functions. For example, our motor skills, our breathing, our temperature, hunger, and so much more. Since the brain is our control center, that is where we start. Now, to better understand the importance of the ABCs of infant brain development and its impact on life, let's take a moment to look at how the brain matures. This chart shows normal neurological development, beginning at birth and progresses through about age 6 for girls and about age 8 for boys, with an additional spurt of brain growth occurring during adolescence. Now, every brain develops from the bottom up, with the first level providing the foundation for the second level providing a foundation for the third level, and so on. So it's important that each level is fully developed, leaving no gaps in the foundation, as a gap will affect the function of the upper levels of the brain. And those upper levels are responsible for our walking, talking, and thinking. Now, please note, today I will be speaking in terms of absolutes. And while we know no one develops in these nice straight lines and boxes, organizing the information in this manner helps us to understand the progression. Let's take a look at the first 3 levels of the brain to develop. These 3 levels of the brain typically develop during the first year of life, and it is the foundation of our brain. This part of the brain is responsible for all of our automatic functions. For example, our heart beating, our food digesting, or our body cooling down when we're hot. Now, let's break these 3 levels down just a bit more. And let's talk about the medulla. The medulla is indicated by red on the chart. When a baby is first born, she primarily functions from the medulla. The medulla is responsible for our primitive reflexes, or things that happen automatically. And here are just a few examples. Our startle reflex. If I make a loud noise, a baby's going to startle at any sound. If I touch the side of a baby's cheek, because of the rooting reflex, baby's just going to turn and suck whether they're hungry or not. It's just a reflex. Let's talk about the grasp reflex. If I take my finger and put it inside the palm of a baby's hand, the baby is going to grasp and hold on for dear life. Again, just a reflex. These reflexes are there simply to help keep the baby alive during the first couple of months of life. And let me tell you about one more. It's called the gallant reflex. The gallant reflex is located on the lower back on either side of the spine. And that gallant reflex helps the baby to wiggle down the canal during birth. The next level of brain to develop after the medulla is the pons level, which is indicated by orange on the chart. This level of the brain typically develops during the first few months of life. Now, the pons is responsible for vital life-preserving activities. It's where much of our sense of feeling safe, secure, and bonded comes from. This is the level of the brain that says the world is an okay place and I belong. This part of the brain sets the stage for us to be loving, joyful, kind, and enables us to have a receptive heart and a generous soul, which provides a rich foundation for learning later in life. There are two other aspects of brain development that I like to point out during this early stage of brain development. First, we call mirror neurons. Here's a little example. If I take my hand and I pretend that I'm using my hand as a mirror and this mirror is reflecting back to me what is in the mirror. Well, babies have little mirror neurons, which enables them to mimic what they see. So for example, if I have an infant and I am smiling at the infant, in a typical developing infant, that infant will eventually smile back. Second, permeability. Infants have permeability. That means they have the ability to feel and absorb what you are feeling. Here's another example. I'm walking down the street and I'm pushing the stroller. The baby's inside the stroller and I hear a blaring sound. Baby begins to cry. So I scoop up baby, place baby in my arms, and without many words, the baby begins to calm down. Why? Because I'm not afraid of that sound. I recognize that sound was just a passing siren. And because I'm at peace, the baby can feel my peace and also calm down. That is permeability. As we progress through the chart, let's move up to the midbrain level, which is indicated by a yellow band. This next level of the brain typically develops between 5 and 14 months of age. This part of the brain is responsible for balancing, regulating, and filtering. It is what we call the schooly level. And this is when we start filtering out the excess sensory stuff. The midbrain level acts as our auditory filter. And because of that, we can filter out excess sounds, focus, and attend. It also helps us to read nonverbal cues, alerting us when to give someone space, when someone is a welcoming friend or not. It enables us to perceive external light touch appropriately and have a good sense of where you are in space. In summary, the midbrain helps us to focus, pay attention, follow directions, read, speak, know where my body ends, yours begins, and so much more. Now, when the foundation of the brain is strong and well developed, the walking, talking, thinking part of the brain is equipped to reach its potential. I like to tell you a story about Parker. Parker had an opportunity to build a house. A decision needed to be made. Do I build the house on rock or do I build it on sand? Well, Parker wisely chose to build the house on rock. Why? Because Parker knows if he builds his house on rock, it has a greater chance to survive adversities like wind and rain and snow, heat and cold. So it is with our neurology. In order to withstand the elements of life, our walking, talking, thinking part of our brain needs to be established on a firm, strong foundation. However, if the foundation of the brain is not well developed or organized, the impact is profound. Let's discuss just a few. Let's talk about the medulla. Now, just a quick review. The medulla is responsible for our primitive reflexes, those reflexes that are there just to keep us alive. If those reflexes are retained, they can become stumbling blocks later on in life. For example, we talked about the grasp reflex. Now, if the grasp reflex, remember, you put something in a baby's hand and they will grasp it. If that grasp reflex is retained later on in life, it can make fine motor skills very difficult. Or, for example, the startle. A baby will startle at any sound. If that startle is not integrated, later on in life, if I'm in school and that startle is still there, it can distract me from focusing and attending. Another example is the gallant reflex. That little reflex that helps the baby wiggle down the birth canal. If that reflex is still online and hasn't been integrated, and I go and sit down, I try to sit down on my chair in school, that reflex can be triggered, making it very hard to sit still and attend. Let's talk about the pons level. The pons level is responsible for us to feel safe, secure, and bonded. If this level of the brain is not fully developed or disorganized, later on in life, I can have great difficulty with bonding. I might be fearful of non-threatening noises. I could be in a constant state of fight, flight, freeze. I may be anxiety-ridden, fearful, clingy, or shy. And this is just to name a few. At the midbrain level, this part of the brain is primarily responsible for helping us to filter, regulate, and balance. And if this part of the brain is not working well, I can have difficulty with focusing, paying attention. I can be distracted by sounds. It might be difficult for me to understand tone of voice, and even have difficulty reading social cues, which impacts my relationships with others. So, what is needed to enable our infants to have the potential for a well-developed brain and an equipped life? What is needed is a strong, stable foundation. So how do we get there? The main activity that builds the foundation of the infant brain is what I like to call the ABCs of infant brain development. And this is based on the developmental sequence. The ABCs of infant brain development are as simple as A, B, and C. Let's begin. From birth, infants need to be on their tummies approximately 50% of a 24-hour period. We like to call this tummy all the time. Why? Because tummy all the time will help the reflexes to integrate and to move out of the way. Tummy all the time will lead into tummy crawling, which includes the belly button being flat on the ground and baby moving forward. This form of locomotion is similar to an army crawl, but not exactly. And here's the tip. If a baby doesn't need mittens, they do not need socks. When a baby is engaging in tummy crawling, all the baby needs is a comfortable onesie and a safe floor to crawl on. Tummy crawling is the main activity needed to strengthen the medulla and develop the pons level of the brain. Remember, that's the part of the brain which enables us to feel safe, secure, and bonded. Later on in life, this helps the child to form healthy relationships needed for learning. At approximately 6 to 12 months, babies need an ample amount of time to creep on their hands and knees. Now notice the position of the baby. Baby is up on all fours and the belly button is no longer touching the ground. Babies should continue creeping until their creep has developed into an efficient cross-lateral movement. Why? Because this activity is the main activity that continues to strengthen the medulla and the pons and mature the midbrain. When a baby has equal access and the opportunity to engage in the ABCs of infant brain development, their brains are equipped for life. I like to just explain one example. A baby who is a happy soul and who is bonded with their primary caretaker can become a child who is socially, emotionally equipped to have healthy connections and interactions. And later on, they can become a student who is able to learn well. And finally, an adult who has the strength needed to make a positive global impact. One might ask, what about my older children and students? I recognize some of these struggles. Is it too late for them? Absolutely not. It is not too late for them. There's always a second chance. For older children, students, and adults, we replicate the developmental sequence, and this pathway is called neurodevelopmental movement and is based on neuroplasticity. When given the right triggers, the brain is able to change. Again, we have a second chance. At Neurally, we work with infants, children, students, and even adults. Our process is very simple. We like to say it's as simple as 1, 2, and 3. 1, reach out to us at neurally.com to schedule an in-person or virtual assessment. 2, we will review the findings of your assessment. And 3, you will be given a daily movement plan and support protocols to ensure that your baby has equal access and opportunity to complete the ABCs of infant brain development. For older children, students, and adults, the process is very similar. For more information about the ABCs of infant brain development or neurodevelopmental movement, reach out to us at neurally.com. You can email us at jwilliams@nsibrain.com or shoot us a text at 317-936-6797. So, what happened to baby girl? Here's Riley. Did you catch that? Riley is now adopted and can be called by her name. She lives with her mother, Sarah. After engaging in the ABCs of infant brain development, she is now developmentally on target and can eat, drink, and use the restroom independently. She no longer needs a feeding tube and never needed a G-tube. I checked in with Sarah, and Sarah reports that Riley continues to thrive and is doing amazingly well. In summary, the developmental sequence for infants is as simple as A, B, and C. However, the impact is profound. Why? Because the developmental sequence is not a man-made program. It is a process designed to equip the brain for life. When the foundation of our brain is underdeveloped or disorganized, it impacts the walking, talking, thinking part of our brain. But because of neuroplasticity, a disorganized brain or undeveloped brain has the potential to be organized and better equipped for life. For more information about the ABCs of infant brain development or neurodevelopmental movement, reach out to us at neurally.com, jwilliams@nsibrain.com, or simply text us at 317-936-6797. We can also be found on Instagram and Facebook. It's been an honor to be with you here today. As a neuroeducator, a neurodevelopmental movement consultant, I look forward to the possibility of connecting with you on your parenting journey as you equip your baby's brain for life.